Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 25 career mode here on the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. You might notice the mic sounds a little bit different. I'm on a different microphone that you will hear a few times per week, so bear with me. We're trying to kind of get the settings all tweaked out over the next few episodes, but we will get it to where it needs to be. As we come into this second round of our F1 career mode so far with this brand new 11th team on the grid with Connor Sport. We're taking on the Chinese Grand Prix weekend here from Shanghai, and as well on top of that we have a sprint weekend. Excited for that, although you guys know if you've been around this channel for since its beginning, not a fan of sprint races, sprint weekends. I mean, I've personally despised them, but there's nothing we can do about it. We just gotta swallow that pill and deal with it. Looking back on our debut in Australia, I mean, we came up just a few positions short of scoring points, but we never actually truly had pace to score any points. Of course, we just kind of lucked out with some strategy, and we saw very evidently that the two-stop strategy was not the way to go, at least in Melbourne. We stuck with the one-stop, worked out very well. I mean, we were really comfortable with the car pretty well the entire weekend in Melbourne, so that was building the confidence coming into this weekend. The only negative was our teammate, of course, Aiden Jackson, with a mechanical failure that took him out of the race. So something to keep in mind. Reliability definitely going to have to be worked on in this car going forward, so that is something that we're definitely going to be focusing on with some upgrades, and we're not really bringing any upgrades into this weekend here from Shanghai, as we are hoping to bring them going into Japan and so on and so forth in the coming races after that. So we've pretty well got the same piece of machinery that we rolled into Australia with, which we know had fairly solid qualifying pace, I felt like, but it didn't have as good of a race pace. So I was curious to see if we were going to see the same thing here this weekend, but practice looked great. I mean, we were P2 and P5 respectively, as you can see Lando Norris at the top of the board here in FP1, as we're going to jump through into sprint qualifying to kick off this weekend here now. So of course, two opportunities this weekend for points. I don't really expect to have the pace for points, but as we saw in Australia, with the potential for different strategies, you really never know what's going to happen here. There is a very real chance that we could luck out by just playing the strategy game right and maybe gain some extra positions here, as I am very interested to see if it's going to be a two-stop or a one-stop kind of weekend throughout this kind of progression, as we see how the tires react to the surface and whatnot as we come through into SQ1, and everybody of course is locked onto a set of medium compound tires, and it's a one and done kind of scenario. You get one chance to put in a good lap, and if you don't, good luck on getting a second one in, because your tires of course are going to be worn. You can't go on to another new set at that point, so it's going to be really challenging for you to find more lap time on that second lap. So I recognize that immediately, and of course just kind of almost a safe-ish lap right up until I'm coming up to the end of the lap right here. You're going to notice as we head through into the final turn, missing the apex, going a little bit wide. Fortunately, with strict corner cutting, don't get called for that, as I did lift enough, and we go P4 and P5 between myself and my teammate of Aiden Jackson, and we both moved through. Jackson P11, we dropped to P16, which is the last spot through, as you see Ocon, Berriman, Gasly, Stroll, Doohan, and Hadjar all out. So we make it through into SQ2, which is already, I feel like, a solid improvement based off my qualifying pace in our debut back in Australia there in that first episode. So already making some gains, finding more comfortability in this Connor Sport Butler Global car. Love the colors on this car, the purple, the yellow, the black. It all just looks so good together now, as we are well underway here in our second lap of qualifying now, and overall felt like it was a fairly similar lap to what I was putting up in SQ1. It didn't feel really much better, but I knew I needed to hit this final apex right here, and we do exactly that. Get on the throttle hard here, open up the rear wing with the DRS, but I went through all of my deploy already, and that's going to hurt us a little bit as we come through to cross the line. We're the slowest of everybody, and it would end exactly like that. We're going to start this sprint from P16. Meanwhile, our teammate of Aiden Jackson will start from P14. So, not the worst thing in the world. We've got some work to do to go forward. I think it's going to be a very challenging sprint. Nonetheless, let's get ready to go racing.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Piastri, Tsunoda, Charles Leclerc, and Hamilton. Russell, Fernando Alonso, Hulkenberg, and Gabriel Bortoleto. Lawson, Antonelli, Alex Albon, and Jackson. Sainz, Golden Boy, Esteban Ocon, and Ollie Behrman. Gasly, Stroll, Doohan, and Isaac Hadjar rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint.
I must say it's a little feature, but it's cool that they got the sprint music actually there in the intro. One-stop strategy here, going from the mediums, of course, to the end of this, well, what is only a 10-lap sprint. So it's very quick, you know, we get going off the grid, and then just as we're kind of getting into things and getting comfortable, this sprint will be kind of dwindling down to the final laps here now, as you see Lando Norris, Max Verstappen going to be P1, P2. Norris winning the season opener in Australia, kicking off the season better than anybody, of course, now looking to continue that here into China. Can he get through this weekend and maybe even clean sweep this weekend from going pole in SQ1 to a win in the sprint? Can he go and repeat that as well in the actual Grand Prix now, as we're getting ready to pull up to the grid now? As I want to kind of change up the commentary a little bit here on the formation lap between the sprint and the Grand Prix when we do have those weekends, so stay tuned on you know, kind of that. Let me know what you think down below, or if we should just kind of keep the traditional same kind of formation lap that I have in the Grand Prix weekends for the sprint as well. Nonetheless, here we are rolling up to our grid spot now, and I really do believe it's going to be kind of a race where we're going backwards here, as like I said, I feel like we've got more qualifying pace than we do race pace as a team currently. Only one way to find out. 10 laps of racing here as we start P16 behind our teammate of Aiden Jackson. It's lights out, and we are underway here from the Chinese sprint race now. As you can see, a bit of a wheel spin for myself. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri get away P1 and P2. Verstappen drops down to P3 as there's Yuki Tsunoda going at it with the Ferraris now, as he in his second race for Red Bull trying to go forward early on. He's got a big home race coming up next episode from the Japanese Grand Prix, where they will be running the special Japanese Grand Prix livery that they had in real life, so stay tuned on that. I've got it modded in the game for the Japanese episode, and it looks absolutely fantastic. But Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri early on get out in front, and they're going to try and drive away single file throughout the entirety of the pack already now, as we go back on board with myself, and we're in P15, so it's overall actually a gain after the first couple of corners. You can see getting a little bit oversteery there on the curbing through the S's, so got to keep that in mind throughout the rest of the sprint, and as well into qualifying Grand Prix as well, as we head down the long straightaway. This is where our big weakness is in this Connor Sport, as Carlos Sainz takes a peek up the inside right here, but we have done nothing but just go backwards when it goes to the straightaways. I mean, the speed in this Connor Sport car, when we've been looking in the R&D, we are currently last when it comes to the powertrain, so it is not a surprise when you go onto a straightaway like this, one of the longest straightaways on the calendar. It is no surprise whatsoever that we find ourselves going backwards. You notice in the right bottom, look at the battery I have already drained through as we go down into turn 1 on lap 3, and we've got yellow flags behind. It's Esteban Ocon actually in the Haas, who's having a mechanical failure there from P18, so the Frenchman going to be out early on in this sprint. We will stay green, no virtual safety car or full-blown safety car deployed. We continue under racing conditions right now as Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, your top three. But now as we head to the tail end of lap 3 down the long DRS straightaway, here comes Pierre Gasly looking for an overtake here in the Alpine. A good bit of defensive line into the apex now, and we really push it deep into the corner, right to the back of my teammate of Jackson. He's behind this battle between Lawson and Albon, and they get that sorted out pretty well. Lawson still behind the Williams here as we come to lap 4. Albon trying to defend over Lawson. He goes around, he loops it around in front of all of us, and we all come to a complete stop, nowhere to go. This could bring out a safety car, even more so. It's going to bring out our first red flag of the 2025 season. I was a bit surprised to see this because I have red flags turned to the minimum option. They are on reduced. It's the lowest option possible without fully turning them off. So that kind of changes everything here in terms of strategy. We're all going to be switching to the soft. So I say everybody, not everyone. Look at Isaac Hadjar going in for the restart. He's on the mediums, which is going to be interesting because we got 5 laps of racing to go as we get back underway here from our first red flag of our F1 career. We're 3 wide on the run into turn 1, getting aggressive. It was a terrible start for my teammate of Aiden Jackson, immediately taking advantage of Hadjar, fellow rookie on the grid there on the mediums, just going to be slower to get going. However, I mean, these softs could burn through pretty quickly, and Hadjar might actually have some hope, and same for Lance Stroll, who's also on the mediums in maybe the last lap or two when we hit lap 9 and 10, but Hadjar trying to fight back, not going to happen. We dive it up the inside there of Liam Lawson and look for the position on the New Zealander, and that will hopefully open the door to go after Alex Albon, maybe even Ollie Behrman, going through these final handful of laps. But unfortunately, as you can see, we come to lap 7 now, a lap later, and we haven't really made any progress. We're just kind of staying back by, 4 or 5 car lengths between myself and Albon, and Hadjar had managed to get past his teammate of Lawson, which was a bit of a concern, obviously, for myself, seeing that he is already getting through on the medium compound tire. And then as we come to 2 to go, this is kind of where I expected him to maybe really be able to start kind of navigating his way forward in the final 2 laps, and he was well within DRS range for myself as I'm actually starting to put some pressure on the back of Albon there in the Williams, but just not enough straight line speed, not enough get off the corner speed, not enough traction to be able to go after Albon. And sure enough, coming to the final lap already, and you can see Hadjar is on the move. I can't even defend that. I mean, he just breezes by me. I thought he was going to show the nose. He will show the nose on Albon, completely cuts the corner and leaves the door wide open for myself to go back around the outside. I mean, we're not going to give up without a fight here, but right there into the final turn, Hadjar shuts the door, saying absolutely not. I am hanging on to this position as we come to the final lap now, and that poor exit through the final turn opens the door for Pierre Gasly as well. In the Alpine, descended up my inside. We're going to try and keep it around the long way and see if we can have the preferred lane here into turn 2, and maybe that'll open the door for me to maybe get back in front of Gasly and harvest our battery for a final lap push. Not going to happen. Gasly just gets off the corner better, and we drop to P16 as it would be Lando Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, your top 3. Lando Norris, final turn. He comes through to do exactly what he did in Melbourne by continuing to win here and wins the first sprint race of the season. As you see, it's going to be Leclerc and Tsunoda rounding out the top 5. As for myself, we started P16. We're going to round the final turn to finish P16. My teammate of Aiden Jackson, after a terrible restart, going to be all the way at the back there in 21st. Not exactly what we wanted to see there, but I mean, we said it. Our qualifying pace is most certainly better than our race pace in this Connor Sport, so I was not surprised to see us kind of, go backwards there. I mean, we went forwards, we really benefited on the start and the restart, but of course, as those laps went on, it just didn't quite work out. How about Gabriel Bortoleto getting the final point there in P8? A great effort from him, as you can see the rest of the finishing order. How about Carlos Sainz down there in P20 as well, as we're going to jump straight through into qualifying, and we're going next level racing on board. I'm excited to share this announcement with you guys now that I'm actually now sponsored and partnered with Next Level Racing. You see me sitting in the Next Level Racing GT Racer 2.0 sim rig right there, which is just a full frame of just what can handle your shifter, your wheel, your pedals, and as well it comes with a its own sim racing seat. Huge shout out to Next Level Racing. I'll have an affiliate code within the next couple of days to share with you guys as well if you want to support me that way going forward. So stay tuned on that. I'll have another announcement when that time comes. Here we are in Q1. We were P16 our first lap, which of course is just going to be enough, as when we went to the 11th team on the grid, of course, in just a 10-team Formula 1, 16th is the first spot out, but with 11 teams, 16th is the last spot into Q2. But nonetheless, we do find improvement anyways, and we go P11 here in Q1, so quite happy with that. And my teammate of Aiden Jackson, who's been really strong in qualifying so far, the complete opposite. He goes P21, only beating Ollie Behrman, so a horrific effort there from our teammate of Aiden Jackson, as will be the lone Connor Sport in Q2. How about Lewis Hamilton as well? Really struggled there in Q1. He just barely made it through, and it would be the same situation for him in Q2. He's well outside the top 10 right now as we come through about halfway through our lap, and I was kind of going into this with a one and done because I felt like this lap here overall, I really couldn't have gotten a whole lot more out of it as we come through to the end of the long straightaway. There was a bit of a mistake, a lock up there on the right front, go a little bit wide. We still make the corner, but we certainly gave up, I would say, at least a tenth. As we head through the final left-hander, got through there okay, hard on the throttle, DRS open, and heading to the line. It's actually going to be P12, or 13, sorry, for the time being. The question is, would that stick? The answer was yes, it would. We will qualify P13 in front of Antonelli, who had a horrific debut in Australia, and Lewis Hamilton down in P16. What is going on there? He had no speed in Q1, and it continues here into Q2. A lot of work to do for the 7-time champion.
4. It played host to Formula One's 1000th Grand Prix back in 2019. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before we head into the braking zone of turn 14. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Piastri, Tsunoda, Charles Leclerc and Russell, Albon, Fernando Alonso, Bortoletto and Liam Lawson, Stroll, Golden Boy, Andrea Kimi Antonelli and Hülkenberg, Hamilton, Gasly, Carlos Sainz and Isaac Hadjar, Jackson, Behrman, Doohan and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race.
So there you see the starting grid, as it's going to be a one-stop strategy just like Melbourne, and we'll be starting on the mediums, going on to the hards for this 28-lap race. I mean, the two stops is about 9 seconds longer as we get ready to roll.
The formation lap gets underway and every driver will be looking to settle in for the race ahead, making sure that their car is ready for the battle once the lights go out.
We see an interesting difference in strategy. The only one in the top 10, not on the hards though, George Russell on the mediums. Ollie Behrman all the way down to P20, gambling to start here on the softs. Definitely a two-stop strategy for Ollie here today.
As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can, and they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, failing that, within the points.
Right, team, thanks for the hard work this weekend. Hopefully we can kind of mitigate that whole going backwards issue we have here. I'm going to do everything I can, and let's just stay on top of strategy. So we're ready to go racing here for the Chinese Grand Prix here from Shanghai. As can Oscar Piastri maybe put the fight up to his teammate of Lando Norris? Can Norris hang on and just three-peat the start of the season? Can Max Verstappen step up here and dethrone Norris and McLaren? Only one way to find out, and it's right now. It's going to be 5 red lights, and the Chinese Grand Prix is underway. As you can see, it's a poor start from Lando Norris right off the bat. To the lead goes Verstappen, and Tsunoda is going to catch them sleeping as well. It's a Red Bull 1-2 suddenly. me as we go through 1 and 2. How about that? The Red Bull team clutching up on the lights out, and the McLarens are now side by side as they come out of turn 2. Norris, Piastri, wheel to wheel. It looks like it's going to be Norris, so staying put in P3 as you got the Ferrari and the Mercedes there just in the background. Leclerc and Russell, and how about we got Williams, Sauber up here in the top 10 as well. I mean, great to see these smaller teams up here in the mix now, as it looked like Piastri showed the nose right there briefly on Norris going into the S's. Thought better of that one here. 28 laps, it's a long race. I mean, you've got time to kind of let things come to you and just be patient, and I feel like that's a quality that we've always really benefited from here in these F1 career modes, is patience. I mean, I had a great start. We're up to P10 after starting P13, so couldn't ask for a whole lot more. We're right to the back of the two-time Formula One world champion Fernando Alonso, who's been competitive well into his 40s. You rarely see that these days in motorsports, where a driver can be competitive into their 40s. There's only two on the F1 grid that have been able to do it, and that's Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, at least in recent memory, we should say. I mean, you look at NASCAR as well. I mean, it's quite rare there. You got Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, just two recent names I can think of on that side of racing as well. Of course, Harvick now being retired over on the NASCAR side, but Denny Hamlin is, what, 43, 44 years old, and he's still competing for championships every year, as we've now given up a position already to Liam Lawson. Now, as we come through towards the tail end of lap 2, just asking for a bit of an update there on my teammate of Aiden Jackson, knowing things quite haven't gone his way really since that restart in the sprint. It almost seemed like that poor restart kind of hurt his confidence throughout the rest of this weekend. Now, is it one thing I was learning early on, and I didn't realize it at the time of recording this video. I didn't realize it till the next race, actually, that I've recorded. And that is on the right bottom when you see reduced harvesting. So you're going to get reduced battery harvesting towards the tail end of a lap. And I thought that was an issue with the car, or something was going wrong. What I found is, no, it's just simply the fact that you can only harvest so much battery throughout a lap, and eventually it hits its peak. So that's what that is. Now, is Lando Norris coming back through the field with the DRS there, is going to get past the Japanese driver of Yuki Tsunoda, now splitting the two Red Bulls, and that opens the door for some vulnerabilities now. And here I am getting now overtaken by Lance Stroll, fellow Canadian, up my inside. A bit of contact right there. Stroll, I felt like, kind of came over a little bit to the left, and I maybe stuck my nose where I shouldn't have, as Lewis Hamilton now through on his former car there against Kimi Antonelli into P13. Hamilton has had a really rough weekend since qualifying, but now here he goes a lap later, lap 4, he goes past me, and immediately, look at this, he's going to bring the fight to Stroll as well into the braking zone. He's going to try to go the long way around, as Kimi Antonelli, his first Grand Prix in Australia, I mean, it was a complete disaster, and right now he runs P14 as Hamilton gets clear of Stroll, but it wasn't over because Stroll got the DRS and was able to actually re-overtake Lewis Hamilton into turn 1. So he retakes the position. Hamilton, I'm sure, would love to have that one back. Maybe he should have just waited to the front straightaway, because now he's going to have to wait almost an entire lap again to lap 5 to even have a chance to pass Stroll. But now Stroll's in the DRS of the car in front of him, which is Gabriel Bortoleto, I believe, or no, it's actually his teammate. No, it is Bortoleto, sorry. As you can see, Antonelli now coming up behind me, and once again, I mean, this same issue in Australia, where struggling for straight line speed, and to make up for that kind of struggle, I am using a lot of battery. So now we get to a point where we don't have much battery to defend, and we're already lacking some speed, and it just makes myself defenseless. And now we've dropped to P14. We knew, especially when we qualified P13 with the slowest car on the grid, that we were going to go backwards. So it's not really anything I'm panicking about or anything. I'm just kind of gone into acceptance of it. I'm still going to fight as hard as I can. And here comes Pierre Gasly. We go defensive on the line, but we're down to 8% battery. Gasly's going to go through on the left. Of course, I could maybe dive it up the inside there, but that really wouldn't make much sense. It almost feels like a battle that we're not really a part of there, as we would kind of maintain, though, P15, and I was starting to get a bit more creative going into none on the ERS deploy, especially through the first few corners, as we're actually going to spin it around. We've we've completely lost it out of nowhere. A full-blown loss of grip, and we've gone from going backwards to quite literally going backwards, and now we're to the 22nd position, and this changes our entire Grand Prix in the worst way possible, where I believe we need to maybe think about a two-stop, and I would elect to pit this lap. I mean, we weren't supposed to pit until about lap 13 to put on the hards and go to the end from there, but I was starting to lose grip, and that's why we got into that moment there where I just completely lost it. But it was very unexpected. It just kind of felt like it just, boom, a snap of your fingers, the car was gone. So now I would elect to change our pit strategy completely. We're going to box right here, and actually Ollie Behrman's pitting as well from the soft tire. That's not surprising. That is a scheduled stop. We're going to come in, get down to the 50 miles per hour. We're going to come in and still commit to the original strategy, which is we're going to put on the hards, and we're going to just kind of see what happens from this point on, but just obviously not a scenario I really want to be in right now, and it's unfortunately a self-inflicted error that put us in this kind of challenging spot now, because of course we are pitting about 5 laps before our original pit window. So the question is now, can I take these hards maybe 5 extra laps and still make this the only stop of the race? And that could really help us. But, I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens now as these laps go on. So now we jump straight through to lap 10, and Esteban Ocon had now started to make a pit stop. So look at the gap to Aiden Jackson for reference. He is still struggling, but he's 20 seconds ahead. When I came out of the pit lane, he was about 23, 24 seconds ahead of me. So we've gained 3 seconds or so, and we're continuing to watch that gap because I was kind of running through a lot of different kind of scenarios in my head as these laps were going on, which is interesting. You're trying to manage battery, you're trying to set the best pace you can, you're trying to manage your tires, and you're trying to run through different scenarios of strategy all at the same time. That's 4 different things going on every lap here as Nico Hülkenberg exits the pits. But of course, everyone's kind of on a different strategy compared to myself. We're now locked into our own kind of race here because of my self-spin. Now, in terms of the fight for the rest of the race, it's still Verstappen out front, Norris in P2, Tsunoda in P3. Russell actually has been in a battle back and forth with Oscar Piastri, so they've been going back and forth for 4th and 5th throughout these handful of laps that have been going on. But look at the gap to Jackson now. I mean, 13 seconds as we see now Pierre Gasly and Gabriel Bortoleto, who started up inside the top 10, makes his pit stop. But look at him now down to 19th position, not exactly where he would like to be. But I mean, we had cut the gap to Aiden Jackson to about 10 seconds, so we have gained a ton of time. Over now nearly 15 seconds of a gain by the time Jackson's probably going to pit, which is right now. Aiden Jackson, our teammate, comes into the pits, and I was using him just as a reference just to see what our pace was, of course, going to be like. And here we go, breezing by him. He's still in the pit lane now. Here's Kimi Antonelli that we get out in front of, so this is crucial. Antonelli was in front of us before we even spun out. So you see the difference of tires and just taking fresh tires and, you know, putting the laps down compared to the guys on fresh or on old wearing tires. I mean, there is a serious difference in pace in this game, which is great. Verstappen makes his pit stop from P1. Piastri not too much further behind, going to make a pit stop as well. Here comes Antonelli on this 15th lap. He's going to breeze past me, and here comes Gasly as well. These are 2 cars I can't defend. They're on brand new hard compound tires. It would be silly to even try and fight them when we just barely passed the halfway point in this Grand Prix. You might see other YouTubers, of course, fight to the death in situations that they shouldn't be, but I like to kind of, you know, race realistically, and I'm always going to kind of stand by that. As Lando Norris is now going to come into the pits, he'll relinquish the lead to Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen, the eventual leader, but Norris, a pit stop issue there on the right rear. That's going to be a really slow pit stop. That's going to hold him back by a good 2 or 3 seconds there, so that is going to certainly affect potentially his result today here from China now as we come to the back of Fernando Alonso, who's just exited the pit lane here. But we're still P18, and we know all these guys pretty well in front of us are going to be quicker, but there was one driver that wasn't That's Nico Hulkenberg. He made his pit stop. He went to the soft compound tire, and he is at the point now where you can see he is starting to struggle. He is backing up massively, and you can see Alonso goes by him. We are quickly running him down as Lewis Hamilton actually sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. But look at this. We are coming up to the back of Hulkenberg, and now it was kind of a waiting game. I didn't have any opportunity on this 18th lap, through the S's or any of these tight corners to make an overtake, but now I'm starting to lose grip in my hards, as well as we've got yellow flags as we head down the long DRS straightaway. Coming to 10 to go, it's fellow Canadian Lance Stroll done for the day. Mechanical failure there for the Aston Martin driver, and he's going to be done as now Sainz goes by me actually on this long front or back straightaway here. But Hulkenberg, I was hoping to have an opportunity to pass him, and he would actually pit though at the end of this lap. So Hulkenberg in my whole idea of running an extra 5 laps on the hards and making this a one stop was quickly just disintegrating. And I was starting to lose grip just about everywhere, and that put me into a position where I said, okay, we're going to have to come in and we're going to have to put on the soft compound tire and to stop this to the end. And the main reason I wanted to stay on the hards as well was my pace. I was comparing my pace to Aiden Jackson, and it was staying almost even until the last couple of laps. He was gaining by about a second per lap on me. So I said, okay, we need to come in now and put on a new set of softs. We don't have any fresh mediums. If I had a set of mediums, I probably would have gone to those, but our mediums, of course, are used. We, of course, are now through a set of hards. All we have left is a fresh set of soft tires. So we're going to come in, give up all of that track position that we were going to lose anyways. I was starting to struggle, and we'll get the softs on a solid 2.4 second pit stop. We're going to be the last one running, coming up behind Hulkenberg and Bortoleto, Behrman as well. Under 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix. Max Verstappen completely in control of this race. George Russell's up to P2, and Norris is now in a battle with his teammate Piastri. One bad pit stop is all it takes to ruin Lando Norris's race and open the door of opportunity for Red Bull and Max Verstappen to really capitalize on some points here in the second round of the season. As for myself, I was quickly realizing the gap just was quite out of reach to Behrman, to Bortoleto maybe as well, and the realistic approach here was the only car we might run down is Nico Hulkenberg in that Kick Sauber. So we're in a fight for P20 here today in this Chinese Grand Prix. Not the second race I was looking for. I felt like outside of the spin, overall, well, I guess including the spin, we didn't run a great second race. Our second race weekend definitely was worse in the race compared to our first debut in Melbourne. Qualifying, I felt like we've massively improved already, but of course here in the race, we have just been struggling. Tire grip, tire fall off, it's just not been easy. And we're coming into these final few laps of racing now, just 4 laps of racing to go, and Verstappen is on cruise control now. As you can see, the McLarens are starting to get George Russell taken care of. Norris has gotten back through into P2. Piastri is trying to get up onto the podium, as well as we have run down Nico Hulkenberg finally. The gap to Bortoleto hasn't really come down a whole lot. Same for Behrman as Hulkenberg locks up there. That right front tire right on my front wing. Actually a bit of contact there. I got into the back of him, but fortunately no damage done. And as we wait for the right time to strike, I wanted to wait to the front straightaway, and here's the opportunity. Hulkenberg can't get away. 3 laps to go with the DRS pulling out to the left side compared to his mediums, which are probably going to start to hit a transition point where they're going to be stronger than my softs here over the next few laps. It was crucial to get that position gained right there and get the overtake done, and now we'll try and stretch out the gap over the course of this lap, and hopefully we can get over a second ahead before the DRS, and we would do that. We would actually pull out by almost 2 seconds as we came to 2 laps to go in this Chinese Grand Prix weekend, as our left rear is really starting to wear. It was the left rear tire that really wore out in Australia, and it's the same situation here this weekend as well in China. So I don't know if it's just that's the way the game is, or is it maybe the way the car is in the R&D, or is it my driving style that's causing that to happen? Not 100% sure, but I'm sure we're going to kind of continue to learn as we start the final lap here of this Chinese Grand Prix. And Aiden Jackson, unfortunately, would fade down to P19. So it's going to be, so we have a big slide on the opening part of this final lap, but it's going to look like 19th and 20th for Connor Sport. Not exactly what we are looking for, but it's just a situation we found ourselves in. Max Verstappen, however, through the final turn is going to come through to win here from the Chinese Grand Prix. It'll be Lando Norris almost 8 seconds back in P2. Piastri going to be on the podium as well in third, and Tsunoda was able to get Russell as well for fourth, but George Russell will round out the top 5, and Alex Albon well inside the top 10 as I am just hanging on at this point. You see the tire icon has come up on our right side there, so we really wore out my left rear tire in these final few laps, but we round the final turn. It's going to be P20 here in the Chinese Grand Prix, all because of a self-inflicted spin there. I felt like we could have maybe been like a 17th, a 16th, I guess 16th to 18th probably. Not a lot better, but anything is better than P20. Esteban Ocon, driver of the day.
It's another victory and a champion's performance from Max Verstappen.
It was a joy to watch today, honestly, because the driver was clearly able to read the conditions well on track, to use the information properly from the team, and usually come up with the right solution at the right time.
You see Verstappen there celebrating with his team, his first win of what could be many this season. We know Red Bull's kind of behind a little bit compared to McLaren, but I know for a fact they have some upgrades coming in Japan, which could put them even or even further ahead of McLaren in the R&D and spice things up a little bit going forward. So stay tuned on that. And we've got some upgrades coming as well in Japan, so that's something we're going to pay attention to. And I think the Japanese Grand Prix, our expectations are going to be quite considerably higher compared to what they have been in the first couple of races. I mean, of course, Australia, our goal was to just, get through that race comfortably. We did. The goal today was to run better, overall, maybe not position-wise, but just a better pace, but we didn't quite do that. So we definitely had a bit of a disappointing weekend here from Shanghai. As you can see, the point standings, Norris 2 points ahead of Verstappen, and then Tsunoda, Hamilton, Russell all to follow. Piastri a little bit further down, of course, had that engine failure in Australia. Some work to be done for him. McLaren and Red Bull tied at the top of the board in the constructors. Ferrari back by 29, Mercedes 50, Williams up there in P5. A great start to the season for them, and VCarb as well. That's going to do it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one from the Japanese Grand Prix. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great day.